become a master at it first, know exactly how they do it and achieve the result that you're wanting to achieve, and then iterate on that. It isn't that the universe is against you. It's that you're not doing something right. Excuses are simply self-flagellation. In the end, you're just pleasing yourself. You're not actually solving any sort of problem. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cheer Biz podcast. I'm your host, Dan Cotton, and today we are talking about that you as a business owner or even as a coach, you might not be good enough. And we're going to be diving into how we can change that. Now, I recently saw an owner comment in a group and they were just venting. And while I can appreciate how frustrating their circumstance was, and I can certainly sympathize with being in the position where you need to just simply vent, I found myself reflecting quite a bit on what it was they were saying and the approach that they were taking. And she had all of the excuses. She said, Facebook marketing doesn't work. Her town is too small. People don't appreciate her. People in her area are cheap. The list went on and on and on. And again, I can sympathize with where she was coming from. I can sympathize with that feeling, but they were all just excuses. And excuses are simply self-flagellation. In the end, you're just pleasing yourself. You're not actually solving any sort of problem. And excuses don't get you to the real reason that there is an issue. In order to solve a problem, you have to know what is creating the problem. What she was venting about were the result, which was a lack of result. And what she wasn't really focusing on is where the root of the problem was. The reason something isn't working in business is very likely going to be because you or your team are not good enough at it. That's it. You aren't doing it well, and that is why it is not working. And as a business owner, that can be a really tough pill to swallow. I've sat there and I've looked at myself and I've come to this conclusion. It sucks. It's really uncomfortable because you're acknowledging that the reason it's not working is you. And the reason you are not doing it or being successful with it is because you're not good enough at it. You don't actually know what you're doing to be great at this thing that you need a great result from. It's really because that you haven't learned enough about it and or done it enough times and had enough repetitions and enough times at bat to master it, to actually be phenomenal at that given thing. And we oftentimes as business owners, we want that instantaneous response. So we want something to work, but that doesn't always happen without repetition after repetition after repetition. And I want you to think about it from that coaching cheer perspective. How long does it take for someone to master, to have like a really, really exceptional standing back handspring? I would argue that for the average person, it takes between 5,000 and 8,000 repetitions with coaching and correction and improvement to actually really master a standing back handspring. A standing back handspring is obviously a physical skill. It's not a business skill. Most coaches know this to be true, that it takes lots and lots and lots of repetitions to get good at something. Think about what we do in cheerleading. We spend an entire year, 12 months, mastering the skills that it takes to perform a 2-minute and 30-second routine perfectly. That is our pursuit. And most people don't achieve it. Most people don't end the season with an absolutely perfect routine that they could not change anything about. So knowing that we practice that many times and that many repetitions and do that many things, and we still don't achieve perfection, why do we have this expectation that we're going to do these things in business and they're just going to have instantaneous results. And because we watched one YouTube video or because we went to a class at a conference 3 years ago and learned about how to do this thing and then went and experimented with it, why do we turn around and run one Facebook ad and get no leads and conversions and then spend the next 5 years commenting on every single post about how Facebook ads don't work or they're a waste of money or they don't work in your area? The reality is that your ad didn't work because you haven't learned how to be great at running ads. And I see this, I'm talking about Facebook right now, and I will talk about marketing again later, but like people complain about marketing all the time. They're like, oh, well, Facebook ads don't work for me. Facebook ads don't work for you because you're not running good Facebook ads then, or your audience isn't targeted correctly, or you don't have enough eyeballs on your advertisements, or your spend was too low, or your call to action sucked, or your imagery was bad, or your link didn't work. There are so many different errors that people make. And even if you set all of those things up right, it still can take repetition after repetition after repetition to perfect and hone and dial in that advertisement. This is one of those situations where you just aren't good enough yet. You can get better, but we can't just assume that, well, because I want to be a business owner and because I learned on a YouTube video, or I learned at a conference, or hell, you even got on a call with Dan and Dan walked you through how to set up a Facebook ad. Look, setting up a Facebook ad is very different than running an effective Facebook ad or an effective Google ad or having an actual marketing campaign. There is a reason that there are people who get paid lots and lots and lots of money to do marketing. And it is because it's a complex skill set. But we as small business owners know we need to market. So we do it. We throw everything at the wall and we hope something sticks. And the reality is that people underestimate the amount of time and work that goes into being really, really great at something. What you see is the end product when you see things without seeing the process that it takes to get there. So if I watch TGLC at Worlds and I go, oh my gosh, I just need to do exactly that. I suck because I didn't have that. I didn't have that routine and I'm no longer good. Or you go, I don't understand why I can't get there. It's clearly just not fair. Well, you're not looking at their process from the very beginning, from when they have tryouts and place their teams. You don't follow through that process that leads to that result. You're only seeing that end product. It'd be really easy to look at Danielle's book or my book that's going to be releasing soon and say, I want to do that. Or I could know those things. I could write that book. I could put out that information. And what you wouldn't see just reading the book is you don't see the 3 to 4 hours a day of writing. You don't see that all the effort that goes into just creating a first draft and the chapters that get scrapped and then following on edits and then refining of material and information in the book and then reading of an Audible. You don't see all those things because you're not seeing how the pie is made. And that ultimately is what is important. You cannot just look at the result and say, oh, well, this thing doesn't work. Okay, well, Tori is an awesome baker. I am not an awesome baker. I don't do a great job following specific recipes. I'm a good cook, a good chef, because I like to, I season with soul, with feeling. I do with what I think will be tasty and delicious. But when you give me rigorous, requirements to follow, I'm not quite as good at it, where she's fantastic at that thing. And the reality is that I think baking is actually a better comparison of what we're doing in a business, because you have to follow the recipe. If you just go with like my soul and my feeling and my thoughts and my beliefs, you're going to get lucky sometimes. And a lot of times you're going to miss because you don't actually know what's accurate. And you're putting your thoughts and your beliefs on what will be successful out in the universe and hoping that you are right. When you see people in the cheer world or in the business world who are crushing it with ads and wonder how they do it, what you're not seeing is the hours upon hours upon hours that went into the strategy, or the 10, 20, 30, 40 ads that they ran before that sucked. I have run really, really good ads. I don't even consider myself an expert in Facebook ads or marketing. I know enough to have some success and have some losses. But what you don't see is the very beginning. And this was me when I was running Facebook ads at the heyday era, where you could get an ROI of like 1 cent for a cost of acquisition for a client. Like you could be paying next to nothing to get a new sale. Like it was the golden era. And then I was running ads that weren't doing well. I paid money for ads that didn't get me any new clients and didn't get me real leads because I ran them poorly. And I even paid at one point for people to run ads, and they got lots of engagement, but it didn't translate into any leads because they sucked and the process sucked. And I didn't know all of the work and the time and the effort and the energy that went into building something and being really, really great at that thing. So the fact of the matter is that you can get some decent results with a moderate amount of effort. But if you want outsized results compared to your competitors, then you're going to have to do outsized work in either time or output. You're going to either have to commit more time, which then will lead to output, or be more efficient with your time and have a higher output. But you're going to have a higher output than the people that you're wanting to beat. You can't be the person who runs the race, but you don't run and you're mad that everyone else beat you because you're not putting in the same level of effort. And things that are fast and cheap and easy often are rarely high quality. So the things that are hard to do and the things that take a lot of time to master. And you need reps. You need times at bat to hit a home run. Even the best baseball players in the world who could, if you just gave them a slow pitch, hit a home run every single time, they don't hit a home run every time they get up to the plate. And you can't have that expectation with things that you're doing in your gym. It can't be, I start a program, oh, it didn't work, I'm done. Right? You've got to stay the course and you've got to get better at things. You cannot be the athlete that just quits because the skill doesn't come easy. It's okay to say that you're not good enough at something right now. In fact, it's more respectable to acknowledge I'm not good at this thing. And then you find the solution. So what do you do? If you're not good at it, how do you fix the problem? Well, one, do something 1,000,000 times and learn through the process. You will get better with time as long as you're willing to make changes. As long as you're willing, you're going to assess what happens and you're willing to say, okay, this worked, this didn't, I'm going to tweak and change this. And then you're going to go out and you're going to learn. There's a whole reason that split testing exists in advertising. It's because even when you're a pro, you don't truly know exactly what's going to happen when you put out an ad. So you can put out an ad with 10 different images, and then you can find that the one that you thought was beautiful isn't gathering the leads like the one that you thought was a mediocre image. And so now you double down on that thing, even though what your previous assumption was actually wrong. In fact, you can actually get better even if you almost change nothing, because you'll just get better at doing the mediocre thing, which will be faster and yield the result that it was yielding faster, and it will gradually gain steam and gain power. And how you could see this in a correlation to like athleticism is I've seen amazing, college football quarterbacks that have a horrible throwing technique. They have like a weird sidearm thing, but they practice it so many times. They did it over and over and over again that they generate power. Or you have that athlete, that tumbler, who you're like, it doesn't actually make sense. Like you don't use great technique in this, but you generate so much power in the way that you do it. You've actually practiced it, what I would argue is the incorrect way, so many times and learned how to make that thing work for you that you've now turned it into something that you're pretty decent at, even though, yeah, you're eventually going to cap out. If you're not willing to change and you're not willing to learn, you're eventually going to reach a point where you can't get any better because you're not making any adjustments and growing. So doing things 1,000,000 times and learning from it and, falling down and getting back up and falling down and getting back up and falling down and getting back up, you will eventually get much better at things. But what is not going to do it, and I've said this before, is you only lose when you quit, is if you quit doing it. If you're like, ads don't work, I'm just not going to do them, they just didn't convert for me. Okay, well, what did you do wrong? It would be like saying, oh, well, coaching didn't work for me, we didn't win, I'm just going to hang up my hat. Like it takes time. I am 10 times the coach that I was 5 years ago, let alone when I started coaching at 19. Like I look back on that guy and I'm like, oh my golly, you were horrible. And it was because I got time at bat after time at bat after time at bat. And I got better and better and better. And I learned from my mistakes. You have to be doing that thing. Number 2 would be find someone who can teach you how to do it and become their best student. Do everything that they say and master the skill set that they're trying to teach you. I had a lot of do this and this and this is in there. One is you find someone who has the knowledge that you want, someone who can help you with that thing. Number 2 is become their best student, meaning you're taking notes, you're paying attention, you're applying the things that you're telling them, and then you're mastering the skill. What we have a tendency to do as coaches, because we're used to having a little bit of autonomy, is we have a tendency as coaches and business owners to try and modify things, to take it and go, oh, well, that's not going to work for me like that. So I'm going to do it like this and that'll be better. And this maybe is even just a human trait, is we try to like change the formula before we've even seen if it worked. So this is again, like getting a recipe to bake something, following the recipe, and then halfway through being like, you know what? I don't think it needs baking soda. I think it would be better with a little extra flour. And then you're like, I don't understand why the cake didn't rise. Well, you didn't have the baking soda in there. You got it in your head that you had a better idea, and that better idea wasn't good. Instead of becoming a master of that skill, knowing it through and through exactly how it works, and then figuring out how you can augment or iterate on that idea. Become a master at it first, know exactly how they do it and achieve the result that you're wanting to achieve, and then iterate on that, which is something I talk about in my 5 lessons I've learned in the last year episodes. So if you haven't listened to that one, make sure that you do. Number 3 is hire someone to do the work for you who is an expert or can provide the product that you need. If you don't know how to do it and you're not an expert at it, then hire someone. I spend a lot of time and energy in marketing, and I do it for my own gym. But this year for Dream Camps, knowing that I had 3 locations and knowing that I had expanded and knowing that we were really becoming a national market, I hired someone who was a professional marketer. And I said, hey, I need help. I want you to teach me how to do this while we do it. But also, I want you to execute on it. I want you to be the person out there doing it because you're the professional. I'm going to help come up with some of the strategy, but you're going to execute and you're going to do the work. They had the product that I needed and I hired them and then they executed on it. You can do this and you do it all the time in your business, but we oftentimes don't think about it from the business perspective. We think as a business owner, I need to make those decisions. But on the flip side, if you're not good at choreography, most gym owners go, well, I'm going to hire someone to do my choreography because I'm not good at that. Yet we wouldn't turn around and pay money for someone to market our gym. But what one is going to actually have a much outsized return financially on your gym? Choreography is important, but like you can compete by doing mediocre choreography. You may not win Worlds or Summit or All-Star Worlds, but you can be competitive. If you have a mediocre routine, you don't have to pay $7,000 for a routine. But we're a lot more likely to pay for that than we are to find someone who is willing to do our marketing and has the proof that they can actually generate leads for us, or hire a business coach who has the proof that they can increase our revenue and actually get us to the goals that we want to get to and get an outsized return on the investment versus the return on investment we get from hiring a choreographer. So like we do it in certain things. It's just what logically makes sense to us in our brain and what we can rationalize to ourselves. At the end of the day, gym owners like to find reasons why their circumstances are the way that they are. And I think that this is honestly just a human thing. We like to think that we're somehow special. While it's great to feel like I'm special in a cool way, we oftentimes will do the same thing as an excuses. Well, it didn't work for me because X, Y, and Z, because I'm different than you. My demographic is different than you. My market is different than yours. My town size is different than yours. People don't use Facebook in my area. Whatever the case may be, whatever the excuse may be, you're like someone who, and maybe you've struggled with weight in your life, right? I'm going to use this as an example. And I don't mean to be offensive to anyone, but I've heard so many people who are like, oh, you know, I'm overweight and I really wish I could lose weight, but it doesn't work for me. I've tried everything and it just doesn't work. Well, I mean, you're kind of arguing that science is not science. Like, yes, calories in versus calories out. It's just science. There is no one that starves to death and is still obese. It doesn't happen, right? So it all is just in how it is executed. Now, some people are going to have way more challenges. And I'm not saying you can't acknowledge that you have differences and challenges that you're going to have to figure out within your business or within your weight loss or within those things. You're still going to have to do that because not everyone is the same. Not every market is the same. But ultimately, doing the baseline things, you have to get really, really good at them first. So get really, really good at the marketing. For a weight loss person, I would say, hey, you need to get really, really good at monitoring your diet and food intake. And then you need to get really, really good at your exercise. We actually see excuses like this all the time. It's the whole age old, oh, the judges hosed us. The judges took that championship away from us. When maybe, in fact, it was actually your routine just wasn't as good as the other team. And that's a fact. Like, I could sit here. So I'll tell you guys, I haven't actually talked about it on the podcast. My level 4 team went to D2 Summit. They did amazing. They had a rough day 1 a little bit. We made it to day 2. It was a guaranteed, but we would have made it anyways. And then they killed it at day 2. They killed it. They absolutely did an immaculate, amazing routine. Our score went way up. We were in the running. We could have won, but the team that beat us, that got first place, they smacked. And honestly, their routine was better than ours. Like, the limitation was our choreography. I did not choreograph as good of a routine as the routine that they had. There were elements that were slow. There were things that we needed to improve. And I could sit back here and go, oh, we got robbed. The judges just didn't appreciate us. But at the end of the day, I just wasn't good enough. And if I want to get better, I have to figure that out. I either have to hire out or I have to dedicate thousands of hours. And I'm a decent choreographer. I have to take that self-assessment myself. Like, this is not a pill that I'm giving you that doesn't taste so good that I'm unwilling to take myself. You have to realize that there are things that you are not good enough at, and you either have to get better at them, or you have to find someone who's better at them than you and get that person to do it for you. At the end of the day, you have to own your ish. You have to know what you are good at and what you are not. And if something sucks and you are in charge of it, it isn't that the universe is against you. It's that you're not doing something right. You just need to figure out how to solve that problem. And you can do it. There are so many resources out there that I don't want you to limit yourself. I want you to realize, I'm not good enough. I don't know how to, I'm not good enough at managing my website. I need to hire someone to manage my website. I'm not good enough at building my all-star program and marketing it. I need to find a way to get better at it. I need to find someone who has what I want. I need to take that. I need to distill it down. I need to become their best student. I need to master it and I need to execute it. Or my rec program. I need to get more tumblers. Okay, well, find people who have that and then learn exactly how they did it, recreate it, replicate it, and put it into your program. Right? You can do that. It is okay and actually quite intelligent to let people who have paved the way get you to where you want to go. So I know that this has been some tough love, and I maybe should have warned you at the beginning of the episode. You may have also noticed a little bit of a different format. I'm not going into all of the, go follow us on Facebook stuff because I don't know that it is as necessary. We're having really, really consistent listens, and the same people are listening to the podcast consistently. And so I don't need to waste our time with that. I also am going to have those days where I'm going to speak really directly to you. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you hearing my perspective. Again, I'm not sitting here saying anything to you that I don't say to myself. At the end of the day, we're all just trying to be the best possible version of ourselves. And in order to become the best possible version of ourselves, we have to find the areas where we're not good. And it's okay to acknowledge that you're just not good enough yet, and then figure out how to get better. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Share it with someone who would get something out of it. And with that, we'll catch you on the next episode.